Welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Reviews. It turns out we are broadcasting at our regular day and time because, well, plans change. And plans change pretty radically this past weekend. More on that on Wednesday. Um, in the meantime, we have 4 games up this week. The first of which is Breakpoint. If you recall, we just did an interview about this game, among others, with our friends over at the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild. And indeed, Breakpoint was the game that we featured footage from. Uh, but in case you missed all of that, very quickly, Breakpoint is a twin stick slasher, as they like to call. Although I will also note that you don't just use slashing weapons. A hammer is a crushing weapon, for example, and you don't slash with an I suppose you can slash with an axe.
Yeah, depending on the axe.
Yeah, but point is, it's a weapon. It's a melee weapons based twin stick shooter, and that does have pretty profound repercussions on the gameplay, because now you can throw your weapon, but that's only a one-shot deal, provided you have enough energy to do it. But yeah, as you might imagine, having a melee weapon as your primary attack, it means you're always pretty up and close towards the enemy. Most twin stick shooters, you're probably wanting to have some distance. Granted, the way with a lot of these work is you'll eventually be surrounded by so many enemies that distance is more a wishful thought than anything else. And indeed, that is no exception here. The field fills up pretty fucking quickly with enemies, and not just the green triangles, which are your Goombas, basically. They're the one-hit, one-kills that you really will want to strategize your hits around, because once again, a lot of this was covered in our interview, but I can't assume everyone who watches this watched that. But yeah, the Breakpoint, the specific name of the title is the effect that Petty just did on screen. It's like each weapon will tick down a hit. And once that ticks down to 0, a big explosion that takes out all the nearby enemies happens. The downswing of that is it resets your energy level. Also worth noting, there are about, not exactly sure how many levels there were, but the higher the level, the better the weapon will be.
I think it's 4 levels.
Yeah, like Petty was doing backswings there, but he can't do that now. That's all of the balancing trade-off of the game. Now, the thing about it is, what you want to do with the Breakpoint is you want to have a crowd around you, not just because of the multipliers and the score. This being a Geometry Wars styled twin stick slasher. It's all about score and rank and leaderboards and all that stuff. Less about, say, progression, like some other twin stick shooters we've covered this year. But the other reason why you want to have a crowd is so that you can get your charge back, basically. Because, the little dust mites that you collect, that's your charge up. And you also got, if you destroy more powerful enemies, you'll, instantly power up a level. And as far as enemies go, they're all very much in the style of Geometry Wars, the very abstract shapes, but I don't know if it's a specific geometry war that's going on here. It's another one of those games that's just pure abstraction. You are shapes that are fighting other shapes because they are other shapes, basically. There's no real story to speak of here, which is well enough. We don't really need a reason why the white triangle hates the green triangles. It's just well enough that they are the different triangles. They are trying to kill you. You kill them. What I'm getting at is not every game is serviced well with the basic framework of a story. There's a lot of early 2000s platformers and games that come to mind. Fucking Tetris Worlds.
Oh God.
Let's put story in a Tetris game. Because that's what Tetris was missing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 3 for the max level.
Yes. They put a story in Puyo Puyo Tetris and it worked okay.
Yeah, I suppose, but it would have been fine without a story is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
That's my ultimate point here. Like this isn't a game that really needs to delineate why you hate the shapes. It's all abstraction.
Something, screw your geometry homework. There's your plot.
Yeah. As far as the visuals go, once again, it's shapes on shapes on shapes.
Do you like neon?
Yeah, it's got a very late 2000s Xbox Live Arcade aesthetic, if I'm being honest. This is the kind of thing that I think I would have downloaded for the 360 in 2007. It feels like from that era. Not saying that's bad, but it's been a while since I've seen a game that's this fucking neon. I will say that it's not as intrusive as some other games I've played. I call this the jetpack refueled ruling. Did you put so much neon my eyes are threatening to bleed on me? That was a big problem with games, with downloadable games of that era. It was just neon on neon on neon, and it was all fucking, splashy colors and everything here. I think what helps is the actual explosion here is all white. So it's not, it's intense, but it's not that intense.
Yeah, as long as you don't have anything like an OLED TV or something.
Yeah. And, very much to this game's credit, I never lost myself. I never found, or at least, when there wasn't like a ton of enemies on the screen. That's a thing I've always had problems with in these kinds of games. There's just so many things on the screen that it's hard to keep track. Once again, to this game's credit, they made you the white shape, so you do stand out. Because they're none of the enemies are white or brightly, or brightness personified here, or whatever. So you will be lost less than in other games, which don't respect the color barriers, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, and everything is a distinct shape, so it makes it very colorblind friendly. Yes.
But I don't think this game has a dedicated colorblind mode, but I don't think somebody who is black, who only sees in black and white will have a problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
Because it isn't just colors. Well, it is shapes, and once again, in a bit of nifty some of the enemies are multiple shapes, like the big oblong blokes. I don't know what to call these things, but you've seen them. They're like the first non-triangle enemy you see. Those are 3 shapes together. That's something that something like Geo Wars wouldn't do. Maybe like late game, even then, Geo Wars kept things pretty simple. And speaking of Geometry Wars, it's pretty obvious that this game owes maybe everything to Geo Wars because, no, seriously, this is the biggest Geometry Wars ripoff I've seen in a good long while. That's another thing that I would place it more, about a decade ago, when every game was trying to be Geometry Wars. clearly we still get that. Once again, this game has enough of its own personality to stand out from that particular game set. But yeah, I cannot ignore the difference. And the specific Geometry Wars this game reminds me of is the very first one, or rather, the very first standalone one. Like, Geo Wars technically started off as a mini game, the Project Gotham Racing series. This reminds me of Retro Evolve. Unfortunately, right down to the pretty limited range of modes. Like, this, what you're seeing here is pretty much all you get. You know, there's no time attack, there's no waves, there's no horde mode. You know, there's no survival mode. There's no any alternate modes. There's nothing here. It's just this one main. You know, I can't even call it a campaign mode. And that's stuff that was all lacking in the first Geometry Wars. You know, in fact, that's kind of one of the things Geometry Wars 2 and Geometry Wars Galaxy did. You know, include a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of modes, in order to expand as a sequel. Maybe that's going to happen with if there's a Breakpoint 2. Maybe there's going to be some stuff added later on. I don't know. But yeah, it's just this particular mode. And, well, that's fine. The game's perfectly fine and playable. And, you know, there are going to be those who will manage the 1,000,000-point runs and shit like that. I've never been into that kind of score attack in the modern age. Maybe when arcades were still a thing, but these days, yeah, don't really give a toss about being number one on the leaderboards.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from that approach, this game's a bit thin, unfortunately. It's perfectly playable. It's perfectly decent. Not amazing. And the lack of modes, the lack of any sort of variety is a big reason for that. But, you know, it's perfectly playable, and it's got its own unique gimmick. How much you enjoy that gimmick is probably going to depend on how you like the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But overall estimation is this is fine. As far as the music, it's what you would expect it to be. Techno. I mean, just look at this game. We don't have the music playing because we don't do that, and I'm glad we don't because you know, there have been a lot of takedown notices.
Yep.
Of music shit. Like
almost like I'm forward thinking.
Yes. But it's like you could probably hear this game. It's your standard. It's pretty standard techno beats. Once again, it's fine. Especially for the genre. Not something I particularly cared for outside of the game, but you know, worked well enough. Let's see. As far as pricing goes, if I'm remembering correctly, I think this game clocked in at $5. Hang on, let me pull up the page. Let's see. Yeah, it's $5. Yeah, for $5, this is perfectly fine. Like, once again, as a game, it's fine. You know, it's all fine. It's just this game clearly could be a whole bunch more. You know, they could add a whole bunch of modes, but maybe they're saving that for the sequel. And Petty, any thoughts from you on Breakpoint since you've been playing it?
Flashy lights go shiny, shiny. But no, it's interesting. I like how some of the weapons have a little bit more technique to them. Like you can spin around and aim to get more reach.
Yeah. I mean, recalling the interview, they said that this was a more tactical twin stick kind of game. I suppose that's sort of true, but here's the thing. That after a certain point, you're so surrounded that kind of planning goes out the fucking window. It's more kill the shapes, like kind of deal. At least that's what it was with me.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, maybe there are those people who can think that fucking mechanically. Not I. Anyway, so yeah, I think that about does it for Breakpoint. Coming up next, Petty Fan will be reviewing a game called Radio Squid.